Yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy Marshall live, and I am here with some super exciting news. Y'all, it is time. It is that time of the year again. We are hosting our next 3-day top paid speaker mastermind for any of you who are an expert at what you do and you are ready to share your message. You're ready to package your skills and you're ready to monetize that message through speaking, coaching, and training. The top paid speaker mastermind is for you. But before I get any further, have a big announcement today. It is the first speaker announcement for the Top Paid Speaker Mastermind, and I am so freaking excited for this one, you all. The guest speaker that is going to be coming on today and that's going to be joining us at the Top Paid Speaker Mastermind in Las Vegas, Nevada, is none other than military combat veteran, self-taught cybersecurity and software developer, and that evolved into AI development, AI consulting, and this guest is now a fractional chief AI intelligence or AI officer, Brandon Collins. I'm going to bring him on right now. Brandon, what's up, brother man? Let's see if we can grab him. Where did he disappear to? You guys, I don't know anything about AI. I just know in the speaking world. Hey, Brandon, will you send yourself? Oh, there it is. Never mind. Boop. I don't know anything about AI. All I know about AI is I'm supposed to be using it. And I'm watching a lot of people do a lot of really cool things with it. Yo, what's going on, my man?
What's going on, Marshall? Hey, thank you so much for that introduction, man. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And I'll tell you, Brandon, Brandon and I are just getting a chance to meet each other within the last like probably month or so. And so, Brandon, you probably haven't seen too many of these, but I completely butchered your intro. It was not very good. And I'm so sorry. So I appreciate that. But as I was like stumbling over it, I'm like, oh my God, he deserves so much better than this. But dude, thank you so much for joining us today. I was just explaining to people that as a speaker and as a business owner in general, I know how important AI is, but I have no idea. Like, I don't know anything about it. Like, yeah, bro, I can go to ChatGPT and I can type up these big mega prompts and I get it. Like, I'm smart, but you're posting stuff every day. I see other experts posting AI stuff every day. And I feel like I'm missing out on something really big and important. So first off, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for agreeing to be one of the speakers at the Top Paid Speaker Mastermind. Share with the audience where you're at, and maybe you just tell them briefly what you do since I kind of butchered that.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Hey, and that intro wasn't that bad, man. I totally get it. I've actually spoke in front of hundreds and hundreds of people before, if not thousands, while I was in the military, and I can tell you that the stress of being in front of so many of those people, especially when they outrank you in the military, is a big thing, right? So don't be too hard on yourself, man. And I wouldn't even consider myself a super professional speaker. What I'm saying is I feel you, all right? I've been there. So, yeah, after I got out of the military, I went into entrepreneurship. I owned a health and wellness business for a while. After I got out of that and sold that business, I taught myself cybersecurity and software development. And I did it using nothing but like YouTube, Udemy courses. What is it called? I think I even like got some consulting from somebody from Fiverr.
Yeah.
But yeah, I taught myself how to hack. And then what led into software development and AI development was for this box, this challenge I was trying to hack to for practice. I needed to code my own malware. Malware can be anything from a bug or a computer virus or something like that. And I needed to code my own malware, and I was struggling with it. I was still kind of a very amateur software developer, so I asked AI to help me. And the funny thing about it is I actually had to hack ChatGPT to get past their security and their safety protocols to get ChatGPT to code this piece of malware that I needed. And that to me was like, okay, light bulb. This thing is incredible. I wish I would have had this in my first business. I mean, yes, I was using it to help me create content. I was using it for data analysis and stuff like that, but I didn't realize the full potential of AI
Right.
And I went down that rabbit hole and found all of these new amazing AI tools. I figured out and I learned how to be a pro at prompt engineering. I know you mentioned like, hey, these big prompts and being able to get more out of ChatGPT and other AI that way. I actually wrote a book on prompt engineering, teaching people how to go from zero/beginner to expert prompt engineer. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with AI, and I'm really excited to share it with you and your community.
Dude, I'm freaking stoked to have you here. And honestly, man, if you're joining into this live and you're watching, even if you don't end up at the mastermind, I want you guys to make sure you're following Brandon, because as a business owner, especially if you're online, the things that he's literally sharing every day in his content are valuable in and of themselves. And that's honestly how I started following him. I'm like reading all the stuff. I'm like, damn, like this is wild. And then, as most of you, the Gillan gang, know, when we are doing calls for speakers, we like to just do calls for speakers out into our network. And Brandon, you saw I did a call for AI experts, and there was like a bunch. I
Yeah,
mean, there's like a bunch of people really doing awesome stuff, but you stuck out to me for a few reasons. And the first reason is that I grew up I'm 39, so I grew up in Illinois in the middle of nowhere, where either you work at the mill or you join the service, right? Like that's it. And so most of my brothers and sisters, I have a ton of like great friends, are military people. I've done tons of work with military veterans, and we started nonprofits, through all these things. But that was one of the things that really stood out about you to me versus everybody else. And so why I want to highlight this to the audience is, if you're like me, Gillan gang, you're listening to Brandon and you're going like, there's no way I could learn all this. Like I couldn't figure this out. And now obviously Brandon is a very smart guy. He was a software developer into cybersecurity and software development. But what I want to say is that it doesn't matter where you started at. Like this kind of stuff is learnable for anybody. And especially when you have somebody who can simplify it, that's very digestible. And that's the other thing I love about Brandon. It's like, okay, cool, this dude's a vet, and he makes something very complex so easy that even a dummy like me can understand it. So before we get into all of that, Brandon, like I want to hear more about that, dude. Like, just tell me, like, where are you from originally? Where'd you grow up?
Originally, so I claim Arizona as
Okay.
right. I was born in California. I lived there for the first 10 years of my life in San Diego. But I was, really young. I didn't really grow up in California. I grew up in Arizona,
Yeah.
and I did about a semester of college and decided that I was not about that university
Yeah.
life, and
Yeah.
and joined the military.
Yeah.
Was in the
So
Army for 8
let
years.
me ask
Uh,
you, what that decision look like that day? What made you pull the trigger? Like you're in class one day, did you like walk past the recruiting table? Like what made you make that decision?
I was just, I was like drowning in homework and classwork, and it was just like I am young and I am wasting my time here. I want to start my life, and I had always loved the military. My father was in the military. My grandpa, my uncle, they were all in the military. I think they were all in the Navy, but I didn't want to be on a boat, and I played Call of Duty way too much to play with guns. So like I was like, I'm gonna Army, and so the rest was history. I walked into a recruiter's office, and they said, yeah, we could have you out in about 3 or 4 months. So I said, all right, awesome. And I dropped out of college and got a part-time, I got a part-time job for about 4 months. Told them that, I was joining the military. I need something in the meantime. So I was doing landscaping in the summer in Arizona
Wow.
for the last 4 months of being a civilian. And and then I left for the military, and the rest is history from there. Now I live in Cancun, Mexico. So I know that's kind of a
Well,
difference.
but the reason I'm asking is I want people to understand, like maybe there's an entrepreneur, I doesn't care, no matter what they are. Maybe they're an agency owner, maybe you're a speaker, a coach, maybe you're building a service-based business, a brick and mortar. But what I really want people to understand, Brandon, is like the stories that everybody overlooks. It's easy to watch you online right now, and it's AI expert, and it's the bio is real great, and the content is good, and everything's well curated, and it should be because you're good at what you do. But sometimes when we're scrolling through the sea of doom, and we're not where we want to be as an entrepreneur, it's easy to forget that even the people at the top started somewhere before. And so to think about Brandon, it's like, okay, here I am in Arizona. I'm just like a normal person. I'm going to school. This is whack. I don't want to do it. I joined the service. Shit, I had to get a landscaping job for 3 or 4 months just to make it happen. And then once I got in, and I think people overlook that, right? And I think that's what's so beautiful about speaking and storytelling is really reminding people like, yo, I'm just a normal ass person. And I just had this normal ass start, but I had an unnormal, desire to become something more. And so tell me, what does that look like the 8 years you're in the Army then? When you started, was there any point where you thought I'm going for the whole 20? Or did something happen along the way that you're like, this is it? Or did you always plan to get out kind of early? Which 8 years is not early. To re-up is good. That's impressive.
Yeah, yeah. I always knew that I wanted to do something great, right? And I know that sounds like really freaking cliche, but like, no, seriously, I didn't want to just pass time, right? If I was going to stay in the military, I wanted to do the full 20. I wanted to become a what's called a sergeant major, which was the E9. It's the highest rank you can get as an enlisted personnel, right? I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to influence a lot of people. But I'll tell you, about 5 years through my service, I was in Alaska, and I started having some pretty, what I would consider, not so good leadership.
Mm,
I was kind of getting fed up with the fact that I felt like I was smarter than these people. I felt like these people were pretty vindictive, and I just wasn't. I wasn't really feeling it. And unfortunately, while I was on deployment, and I don't share this very much, but my ex-wife started cheating on me while I was on
mm,
deployment, and so that was hitting me pretty freaking hard. And when I went to go and get help for that while I was on deployment, it turned into like, let's not help Brandon, let's just treat Brandon like a liability. And that's when
mm.
it switched for me. It was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I've given, the golden years of my life to this organization. And now when I need help, I'm basically cast out to the wind. And it didn't sit right with me. And once we got back from deployment, things were never the same. I noticed that I didn't have the respect that I had before, and the idea of going up was going to be a lot more difficult.
Yeah,
And it wasn't that I was shying away from the challenge. It was just that I wanted to go somewhere where I was valued.
yeah,
And I made the decision about I would say 5.5, 6 years in, where I was like, you know what, I need to go somewhere where I'm valued. I've always loved the idea of entrepreneurship, being my own boss, getting paid for the value that I provide, and having people enjoy and want my presence instead of
yeah,
having to tolerate presence.
yeah.
And that was what did it for me. It was like, well, this is for the birds. I'm going to go be an entrepreneur. I'll show you for not.
Right.
It was it was almost kind of like a revenge thing. It's like, I'll show you
Yeah,
for not wanting to help me when I was at my lowest.
yeah.
And I got out with 8 years in service, honorable, and went and became an entrepreneur after that.
Dude, so there's something that major that comes up in my mind that I want to get to here in a second about you the revenge thing, but we're gonna put that over here. First off, I just want to say thank you for being like open and honest and vulnerable with us, dude. It makes a difference because a lot of guys are people, but definitely a lot of men struggle with these things, these things that happen to us in our lives, and we can't admit them or bring them to light. And then because we hide them and bury them, we're constantly angry. It's like they boil in and become something different. And so I know we're just having a conversation, but I appreciate you being honest. I was married about a decade ago, and my wife cheated on me. I was not gone in the service, which would have made it even worse. But I've had that experience, and it's a terrible thing. So I know what it feels like to feel that anger. And so the thought that you had to be in the military for another 3 to 4 years almost
Yeah.
while you were waiting, like how did you process that information? Like when you already, because I know that there's people that are watching this or listening to this who are stuck in a job, stuck in a relationship. They're stuck in something that they know is a dead end and they are committed to getting out, but they, for whatever reason, can't. So just share with us briefly, like how did you endure that length of time knowing that you were in the wrong place, getting the wrong treatment, you had a different vision? How did you do your time, so to speak?
You know, I was blessed with So when that whole thing happened and I became kind of the liability, after that, after we got back from deployment, they decided they didn't want me on what we call the line anymore. The people they're actually training on the front line, the pointy edge of the tip of the spear, right? They decided they didn't want me on that. They put me back in what we would call like staff, right? So I was working on like the logistics of stuff. The actual position that I was on was as an operations manager. And I think that they put me in that position because they didn't think that I was competent enough, and they wanted me to fail so that they could take military action against me and get me out under not so honorable conditions.
Wow.
The problem with that is that I'm a pretty smart dude, and I'm not going to just lay down. I actually excelled at that job, and I did really, really well at it. And the person who was my boss at the time, I've even called him I called him a couple of years ago and said, hey, thank you for having faith in me. Because he basically told me, he was like, I heard about some stuff when you were on the line. He said, I just want you to know that I'm not going to take any of that into account, and that what you do from this moment forward is how I'm going to treat you as a person. And I said, okay. And excelled at my job. I was like, okay, I'm gonna dive into this, and I'm gonna do it well. And it actually garnered a lot of respect for me at the staff where I was at, to where if anybody was trying to give me any flack, that the guy that was higher ranking was coming up and saying, hey, yeah, no, you're not going to treat him like that just because you don't like him. He's doing his job, and he's doing it very, very well. You're not going to treat him like that. So that kind of gave me a lot of like, okay, hey, there are some good people in the military. There's some great military. There's some not so great leaders in the military. And it made it so, like, I didn't want to stay in the military still, but it made it to where, hey, the last couple of years, I'm just going to do my job, and I'm going to stay with these good people that, that value my presence and value the hard work that I do. And once the time came, they gave me the time that I needed to go through that transition process. In the military, there's a transition process from when you're getting out. And I was allowed to go through that transition process and do the things that I needed to do so that I could be the best, most set up for success once I got out, which fortunately isn't afforded to a lot of people. But it was afforded to me because I showed the people in my new position that I was not some liability.
Yeah. Dude, what a blessing. I mean, you're absolutely right. When these people come into our lives, sometimes they come out of nowhere, right? We're drowning, we're thinking we're never going to figure it out, or we're doing this whole thing alone, and then a mentor shows up or a guide, right? And so I know that mentorship has changed my life. I was almost 30 years old before I even learned what a mentor was. Like, I know that sounds ridiculous to people, man. I've heard the word mentor, but until I was like 30, I didn't even know what a mentor was. And so to be able to link up and find a mentor who's willing to take you under their wing, it's everything, man. It really can make the difference between winning and losing. And so I would definitely say that's a blessing. So now here you are, you find the mentor, you do your time, you get out. Now you have a clear vision of what it is that you're creating. So tell me about that. Did you go right into cybersecurity and software development? Was there a lagging period? Like, were you stuck in like a purgatory for a while? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah. So it's funny, earlier you mentioned like, hey, we're all just normal people, right? I got out and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be my own boss. So I bounced around with a couple of different entrepreneurship type jobs, real estate agent, what was the other one? Insurance agent, like selling life insurance was another one. And then after both of those didn't pan out, I actually went and I got a job as the district manager of a supplement shop. And then COVID kind of happened, right? So COVID happened, and I saw a need just on a whim. My girlfriend and I at the time went and got an IV, which, if you don't know what that is, a nurse comes to your house, or you go to where the nurse is at, and they give you an IV full of vitamins and fluids, and you feel amazing afterward. And I can't remember exactly why I was getting an IV or why we were getting an IV. All I remember was like, holy crap, we're in the middle of a pandemic right now. Getting treated like crap. IV therapy is freaking amazing. Whether, it doesn't matter if the science behind it is not sound or not. People get IVs and they feel amazing. So even if it's just a placebo effect, this stuff is helping people. So I saw a need, and I created a mobile IV therapy business that ended up expanding to 38 different states, and I had over 640 providers working for me at its peak.
How did what? Okay, that's wild.
Yeah.
How did you do that? How the fuck
do that?
did you do that?
I had a pretty good team behind me, but basically once we figured out the business model, which the business model ended up being kind of a semi-franchise side hustle type of model for nurses that were burnt out or wanted a side hustle.
Yeah.
And doing stuff that they enjoy doing. So
damn, that's gangster.
Yeah, we figured out the business model. We got it fine tuned. We figured out exactly what we needed to provide to these nurses in order for them to legally. And then we just started posting in a couple groups on Facebook. And there was one post that really made us took off. We went from like 15 to 18 healthcare providers working with us in one state to I think over 250 providers working with us in 20 states in less than like 3.5 months.
That's wild.
So the growth, and there was a huge need because at the time during the pandemic, so many nurses were just getting treated like crap. And
100%.
They were overworked and didn't like the hospital.
My mom's a nurse. Yeah.
So,
terrible.
they saw this opportunity. They're like, shit, I can make $200 by 1 hour giving an eye to someone. And they were like, hell yeah. So, we had some.
So smart.
So, we were making like $30K a month doing IVs, man. It was crazy.
I'm going to take a time out from the interview. I'm just going to set the interview over here for a second. And I just want to reiterate to people who are watching this, whether you guys are live or on replay, this is the power of events. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a virtual event or if it's an in-person event. Virtual, on camera, those things are magic. You guys in person, something different happens. There's an energy exchange that I can't explain. But imagine being at an event where somebody like Brandon is speaking, and at dinner, after all the sessions are over and stuff, you guys are sitting around and you're having a conversation about how he's doing a 30K a month IV business. That's the power of being in the right rooms, the right people who have the right information. And so I just want you all to remind that, whether you come to one of my events, whether you go to one of Brandon's future events or another event somewhere, virtual or in person, I just want you all to know, in 8 years of hosting events, this is a true story, Brandon, in 8 years of hosting events, the number one thing that my attendees say, the number one thing, and it's always the same thing, the number one thing my attendees say is, I just can't have these kind of conversations at home. I go, what do you mean? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, there's nobody to have these kinds of conversations with where I live. Like, I have some friends and stuff, but this is what I need more of. And so that's why you want to get to these types of events. So if you're somebody that wants to build a speaking business, you need to be at Paid Speaker Mastermind. But it doesn't matter, whatever that skill, that soft or hard skills you guys want to learn, if you go find experts who are hosting events, go join them, get around other people who are like you and learn and absorb. It's like, imagine spending a day with Brandon, just besides what he's going to train, hearing the stories behind the scenes things, like you would have a million other questions, and being around that energy is what creates more success. But anyways, okay, time in. Okay, so Brandon, let's fast forward to that then. So now you found this niche for entrepreneurship. You're understanding how to make money. You're really starting to understand systems outside of the military, logistics, but business-wise. Somewhere in your mind, something's got to start to click, and I'm sure it already did. But you had to have made some kind of a connection between the things you'd done here and the things you did here. So now tell me, where does cybersecurity and software development start to all come together with your years of experience? Where does this come to a head at?
Yeah. So I'll kind of go through like the and do like this. Basically, at its height, we had what we have. Like I said, we had 640 providers working with us in about 38 different states, and unfortunately, at the time, it wasn't really working out for me mentally, and unfortunately, there was also some greedy business partners that I was working with that ended up sabotaging my entire operation. And I actually had to sell my business at a loss to get out from under it, get out from some of the legal liability that happened as a result of that. So I don't want to go too much into that specifically, but after I sold the business, I was kind of sitting here. I was sitting here in Cancun, wondering what the heck I'm going to do with my life. And one of the things that always interested me was the idea of hacking and cybersecurity. It was always just one of those things. Whenever I saw it, I was like, you know what, that's pretty freaking cool. And I finally had the time and I had the money to be able to just sit there and focus on that and learn a new skill. So that's where that came in. I just, it was a curiosity of mine, and I finally scratched that curiosity itch, and I learned cybersecurity just out of curiosity. Are you still there? Shit. Are we having some connectivity issues? Hello? See if we can get this